Hey guys, Shane here with eTrailer.com, and today I have a 2020 Subaru Outback Wagon. I'm going to be installing the Stealth Hitch tow package. With this package, you're going to get your ball mount, you're going to get your wiring, your receiver tube, and a set of keys. One of the things that I really like about this hitch that is going to be different than any other hitch that is available for the Outback Wagon is that our ball mount and our receiver tube are removable. When you remove them, it maintains a nice clean look on the back of the vehicle. Our cross tube is completely hidden behind the fascia. To remove it, you simply unlock it, turn the handle, and drop your accessory out. Wiring can be tucked right up into place underneath your fascia. It's going to have an earth magnet on it. You can stick it right to the hitch until you're ready to use it next time. Again, maintaining a nice clean look on the back of the vehicle. When installing it, if you're going to be pulling a trailer, simply take your ball mount, slide it up into place, push your lock in to make sure it doesn't actually accidentally come out, and you're ready to hook up your trailer. Your receiver is going to mount just the same way. With our fascia removed, let's go ahead and take a closer look at how this works. This is going to be how you remove your hitch mount accessory. Here we're going to have our lock. We're going to have a rubber plug down here on the bottom. This block is going to be a solid aluminum block. What's nice about that is we don't have to worry about rust or corrosion. When you pull out this rubber cap here, you're going to have a set of keys inside, and this is for the lock. It's going to come with two. For your hitch mount accessories, it's going to come with your receiver and your ball mount. These are going to install exactly the same way. All you do, with it unlocked, you're going to push it up into place like that. Push in your lock, and it keeps anybody from removing it. To unlock it, twist it till the lock pops out. Twist your handle, and your accessory drops out in place. Here we're going to have our safety chain loops. You can see we have very large openings to fit different size safety chain hooks. Now, as far as our weight capacities go for our ball mount, we're going to have a 600-pound max tongue weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. As far as our trailer weight, we're going to have a 5,250-pound gross trailer weight, which is a trailer plus the load included. I always recommend checking the owner's manual of the vehicle, make sure the vehicle can withstand that amount of weight. You're going to go with the lowest number between the vehicle and the hitch. As far as measurements go, from the very bottom here to the ground, it's going to be about 15 inches. From the top of our ball to the ground is going to be about 18 inches. From the center of our ball to the outermost part of our lumbar fascia is going to be about 6 3/4 inches. Just want to keep that in mind for any of your trailer couplers that may stick out a little bit farther, closer to your vehicle. This kit is going to come with a 2-inch ball. Depending on your coupler size, there are other balls available that you can pick up here at eTrailer.com. Again, wiring is going to come with this setup, or this kit. It's going to be 4-pole wiring. It's going to come with your dust cap. It's going to help protect your wiring when not in use. It's going to give you all of your signals needed, turn signals, brake lights, and running lights. 4-pole wiring is not only going to work for your trailer lights, but let's say you have a cargo carrier that covers your license plate. You have to move your license plate onto the cargo carrier and it has some lights on it. This is also going to work for that cargo carrier to give you those light functions needed. For our receiver tube, as far as weight capacity goes, we're going to have a 600-pound tongue weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. We're going to have a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, reinforced collar to give us a little extra stability there. You want to make sure when you're loading your cargo carrier or bike rack, you're not exceeding that downward pressure. With having the 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, it's going to give us a lot more available options for accessories. The pin and clip is not going to come with this hitch, however, it can be found here at eTrailer. Now we're going to give you a few measurements. From the top inside edge of our receiver tube to the ground is going to be about 15.5 inches. That number is important for any of your hitch mount accessories that may require a little bit more ground clearance. From the center of your pinhole to the center outermost part of your bumper fascia is going to be about 1.5 inches. Now the pinhole is going to sit out. That's another thing that's going to set this apart from the other hitches that are available. Those other hitches, receiver tube and pinhole, is going to be underneath the bumper fascia a little bit more, which is going to limit you on the space between your fascia and those folding hitch mounted accessories. As I mentioned before, receiver and the ball mount can be removed. When it's not in place, we're going to maintain a nice clean look on the back of the vehicle. It's going to look factory, like we don't even have a hitch installed. As far as the installation goes, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It can be done in your garage, and it can be done on the ground. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk you through how to get it installed. To start our installation, we need to remove our taillights. We're going to take a Phillips screwdriver. We're going to have 2 fasteners right here on the inside of each light. And you don't need to push on them. You just want to turn them to where that center pops out. And then pull the fastener out. We're going to remove this panel, pull back from the inside, like that. Then we're going to have 2 10mm head bolts to pull out here. Take your light and pull straight back on it. Then we need to disconnect the plug. We're going to push in on that tab and unplug it. We'll set our light aside. Then we're going to repeat that same process on the other side for removing the other taillight. Then in each wheel well, we're going to have 3 rivets. What we're going to do is you're going to push the center in, like that. And then we're going to pull the rivet out. What I like to do, instead of trying to take this and stick it in there, because you don't want to scratch it, if you kind of pull out on it just a little bit, it'll kind of pull that rivet out. That'll keep you from damaging your panel. And we're going to repeat that on the other side. Then we're going to start on one side, right behind our tire. We're going to remove the fasteners that run along the bottom of our fascia. Some wagons, some Outbacks will have a mud flap here, and you will need to remove the fasteners holding the mud flap on. In our case, we don't have it. We're just going to have the fasteners, the pushpin fasteners. So we can use a flathead screwdriver, trim panel tool like this, and we're going to pull those out. Next, we're going to remove our rear fascia. It's a good idea to have an extra set of hands, if you can. What we're going to do is we're going to pull out on this corner, and we're going to work our way to the center. Keep in mind, if you have sensors, you don't want to, once you get this loose, you don't just want to pull it off, you need to unplug those sensors. So just be mindful of that, because you don't want to tear up your wiring. Pull back, and we're going to have a sensor wire right here. We're going to push in, remove the plug, and we'll set our fascia somewhere aside. Next, we're going to be removing our bumper beam. But first, we have a sensor right up here on top. We need to unplug that first. And it's going to unplug just the same way as your other one. You're going to have a little tab, you're going to push down and remove the plug. Then we'll take a 14mm socket. We're going to have 2 bolts, and then on the inside we're going to have a nut. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And we can pull our bumper beam off and set it aside. Next, this center bracket right here, we're actually going to have to fold it up or cut it off to get it up out of the way so it doesn't interfere with our new hitch. Now your instructions are going to tell you to remove the 2 exhaust hangers. We have enough play in this, we're not going to need to. If we look inside our frame rail here, this plug right here is what we need to remove. So we'll just take a trim panel tool or screwdriver. We're going to pry that plug out, just like that. We're going to do that on both sides of the vehicle. Now we're going to take those 2 brackets on our hitch and slide them inside the frame rail, line up our holes, We're going to take this shorter copper colored bolt, we're going to put on a lock washer and a flat washer. We're going to go from underneath through that hole and we're going to bolt it into that bracket that's inside of the frame rail. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. One thing I found is that right here in the center, my hitch was actually pushing up against this and I couldn't get that bracket back far enough. So what I did is I put that nut on to pull my hitch back flat enough. When I put the bolt in, I was able to get it in without removing this isolator, but if you find it's a little bit difficult, it's very easy to remove that isolator. You can take a pair of channel locks, spray a little bit of soapy water on it, and you can pop it off. Now what I'm going to do is remove this nut now that I have those two installed, and then we're going to install our bumper beam back over the top of this. And our bumper beam is just going to install in reverse from the way we took it off. We will not be using the factory bolts that we pulled out, but we will be using the nut that goes on the inside here. For the bolts that go on the outside, you're going to have 4 bolts that look like this. You're going to put on a lock washer and a flat washer. Next, we're going to tighten our hardware down. We're going to start with the 3 on the outside and then go to the 2 in the frame. 14mm socket to tighten the nut down on each side. 17mm socket for the 2 bolts. Once you get everything tightened down, you're going to come back and torque it all to the specifications and the instructions. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to install our block with our safety chain loops. Safety chain loops are going to look like this. They're going to go on each side and they're going to face back like this. So we'll slide this up into place, safety chain loop through the block, and come out the other side. And make sure the handle is facing towards the passenger side. Install the safety chain loop on the other side. And we'll have 2 lock nuts. 19mm socket and wrench. We'll tighten and then torque those to the specifications and the instructions. Once we get our safety chain loops installed, we're going to start running our wiring. We're going to have to get in the back of the vehicle and remove our paneling from inside. Once you've got all your floor coverings out, we're going to move our threshold. We're just going to pull up on it. If you find that some of these little fasteners didn't come out with the panel, pull those out and reinstall them in the panel or in the threshold. Now to locate our wiring or our plug that we're going to be plugging into, in your instructions, it's going to tell you it's going to be back here. Those are for the older models. The newer models, it's either going to be up here in this corner or it's going to be over here. Typically, I find them over on the driver's side, right on this edge. But on the 2020, it's actually sitting right here with a little retaining clip right into the panel here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this off. Just give me a little extra. Just like that. And your wiring kit. Wire is going to look like this and it's going to have a plug on the end. Take this, plug it in until it clips together. We've got 2 ways of doing this. We can either take these 4, run them out of the vehicle, or take our 4-pole end and run it in the vehicle. There's a rubber grommet right here behind the hitch, and inside the panel here, what we'll do is we'll just push it out. You look right here, just push that rubber plug out, and that's where we'll be running our wiring. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my 4-pole wire in and make the connection rather than running the other wire out. What I'm going to do is take this rubber grommet, I'm going to cut a hole in it and then run my wiring through that and then reinstall this plug. All I did was cut like an X in it, push the grommet back onto the wiring. We're going to take this from the outside and push it in. And we can push our grommet back into place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip the ends of my wires off. The other end is going to have heat shrink butt connectors already installed. We're just going to match our wires, our colors, and crimp them into place. Once you got them all crimped down, take a heat source and shrink up the butt connectors. Next thing we need to do is we need to get our wiring kind of bundled up, secured to the back of the vehicle somehow so it's not rattling around. It's going to come with a couple of fasteners like this, and it also zip ties. And what you do is you take the double-sided tape off the back, you stick it on there, take a zip tie and run it through, and then zip tie your wiring to it. You're also going to get double-sided tape like this for the box itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 of these. I'm going to stick them right onto this bottom edge, zip tie my wiring to it, take this, stick it on this box, and I'm going to mount it right straight down from here, kind of close to my spare tire. And I'll be able to get all of this out of the way so I can get my panels put back in place. Kind of see how I got it all secured up here where it's not going to move. Make your fuse easily accessible. For wiring for our outside, it's going to come with a couple of longer zip ties. You see I just zip tied it right across the top of the hitch. Fed it down. Went ahead and installed my dust cap. And it just slides right over the top. And then it's going to come with an earth magnet. You just take this and push it on. And that is going to allow you to mount your wiring up underneath behind your fascia when you're not using your accessories. Once you get your wiring outside set up the length that you want, before you start putting any of your cargo area panels back in place, a good idea, your grommet that you put a hole in, take some RTV silicone and kind of fill that hole in to help keep any moisture or anything like that from getting inside of that hole. Now we'll test out our wiring using part number I26. Left turn, right turn, brake lights, running lights. If you notice when we tested it that our lights were blinking fast, that's because we didn't have our taillights reinstalled. Because the taillights have to be reinstalled after we put the fascia on, I'm going to suggest testing this first before installing the fascia, because if there's an issue anywhere, because your wiring runs back behind the fascia, you want to be able to get to it easily. Next thing we're going to do before we install our fascia, we need to trim it. You're going to trim it to the specifications and the instructions. I'm just going to use a rotary tool with a plastic cutting blade. Once we have it trimmed out, we'll go ahead and test fit it and see if there's any more adjustments we need to make. If there's no more adjustments, we can just reinstall it in reverse order from the way we took it off. Looks like we have plenty of room. Get up here, get our lock. Plenty of room for our wiring. I think we're good. We can go ahead and reinstall our fascia. So I'm going to make sure when reinstalling your fascia, don't forget to plug in your sensor wire. Once you have your fascia reinstalled, you can go ahead and add on your ball mount or your receiver, and you're ready to go. That's going to do it for a look at installation on the Stealth Hidden Hitch tow package on our 2020 Subaru Outback Wagon.